Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today we're going to discuss multiplying polynomials by monomials. And largely you're going to see it's just the distributive property, only with variables. So let's review the distributive property real quick. We have the quantity of 4 times x minus 3. Well, you distribute the 4 inside of the parentheses. You'll take the 4 times x, which will give you 4x, plus the 4 times the negative 3. Well, of course you'll still have 4x, but 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. You would just get 4x minus 12. That should be the answer you get, 4x minus 12. Let's see here. One more of regular distributive. We have negative 3 times y plus 3. So, again, you're going to distribute the negative 3 times y, which will just give you negative 3y, plus you'll take your negative 3 times the positive 3. Well, you'll still have negative 3y, but negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9, so you'll get negative 3y minus 9. That would be the answer you get, negative 3y minus 9. Alright, now this is where it changes. Let's say we have c times the quantity of c minus 2. Well, what you have to do is steal the distributive property. You'll take the c times c plus the c times the negative 2. Well, c times c, that'd be c to the first times c to the first, which would give you c to the second. Then you have plus c times negative 2, that'd be negative 2c. So you'll end up getting c squared minus 2c. That would be the answer you would get. Alright, then we have a times 4 minus 2a. Well, you're still going to take your a, distribute that to the 4. So a times 4, that's 4a. Plus you'll take your a times your negative 2a. Well, you'll still have 4a, but a times negative 2a, the coefficient would be negative 2. A times a, that's a squared. So the answer you should get would be 4a minus 2a squared. Alright. Let's see. We got negative 2r times a quantity of 7 minus 3r. So you'll take your negative 2r, you'll multiply that by the 7 first, plus your negative 2r on the outside of the parentheses times that negative 3r inside the parentheses. Well, negative 2r times 7, that'd be negative 14r. Now, plus you have negative 2r times negative 3r. Well, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. That would be it for the coefficient, will be positive 6, but you have r times r, which would be r squared. So this here is one acceptable answer, negative 14r plus 6r squared. But some teachers and textbooks like to write the answer with the highest power first in descending order. So it looks something like this. You start with your highest power first, 6r squared, then you'd have minus 14r. That's called descending order. So either answer is acceptable. You could also get 6r squared minus 14r. Either answer is acceptable. Alright. Let's see here. We have 3x times the quantity of x squared minus 2x plus 4. Well, we have a triple distributive, but it's still a distributive property nonetheless. You're going to take that 3x, you're going to multiply it by the x squared first. Then you'll take plus the 3x, you'll multiply it by that negative 2x, plus the 3x, you'll multiply that by 4. Well, do your multiplication, you have 3x times x squared, the coefficient would still be 3, but x times x squared, that'd be x cubed. Then you have plus 3x times negative 2x. 3 times negative 2, your coefficient would become negative 6. Then you have x times x, that'd be x squared. Then you have plus 3x times 4, which would just be plus 12x. So the answer you should get for this would be 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 12x. Alright, what's next? Let's see, we have 4t times 2t squared minus t minus 5. Alright, so once again we just have a triple distributive property. You'll take your 4t times your 2t squared plus 4t times your negative t plus 4t times your negative 5. Well, do your multiplication. You have 4 times 2 for the coefficients. That'll give you 8 for the coefficient. Then you have t times t squared, which will give you t cubed. Now you have plus 4t times negative t. You have 4 times negative 1 for your coefficient, so that'll make the coefficient negative 4. Then you have t times t. That'd be t squared. Then you have plus 4t times negative 5, which would be negative 20t. So the answer you should get for this should be 8t cubed minus 4t squared minus 20t. Alright, let's see. We have pq squared times the quantity of p squared minus 3pq minus 4q squared. Alright, so a little bit different because we have multiple variables now. Well, still a distributive property. You're going to take that pq squared on the outside, distribute it to the p squared, plus the pq squared times that negative 3pq, plus the pq squared times negative 4q squared. Alright, so let's do the multiplication here. If we recall, when you multiply variables, they have to be the same base. So the q squared is just kind of going to hang out, but you have p to the first times p to the second. That would give you p to the third. Then you'll have that times the q squared. Plus you have, well, let's look at your coefficients first. You have 1 for the coefficient on pq squared times negative 3 for your coefficient on pq. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Now you have p times p, which would be p squared. Then you have q squared times q to the first, which would be q cubed. Then you have the coefficient of pq squared is going to be 1. Then you have the coefficient on q squared being negative 4, so 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. So you just have p just kind of hangs out, but you have q squared times q squared, which would be q to the fourth. So what I did here, of course, remember when you multiply variables, they got to be the same base. They got to be the same variable. If you don't see a q term, like you have pq squared times p squared, you don't see a q term in that, so the q squared just hangs out. You just have the p times p squared, which would be p cubed. Then you'll have that times q squared. And then you have so on. You have the negative 3pq times pq squared, so that's p times p is p squared. Q squared times q to the first is q cubed, so you got negative 3p squared q cubed. And you have negative 4 times positive 1 giving you a coefficient of negative 4. You don't see a p term on the negative 4q squared, so the p just hangs out, but you have q squared times q squared giving you q to the fourth. So the answer you should get is p cubed q squared minus 3p squared q cubed minus 4p q to the fourth. That's what you should get. And I got more examples. I'm not just going to drop you here. We'll do more examples like this. Alright, let's see. We got 2x squared y times the quantity of 2x squared minus 3xy plus y squared. Alright, so again, it's the distributive property. You'll take your 2x squared y, so take that times the first term in the parentheses, the 2x squared, plus you'll take your 2x squared y, you'll take that times your middle term, the negative 3xy, plus you'll take your 2x squared y times the last term in the parentheses, which would be the y squared. Well, start with your coefficients on the first term. You have 2 times 2, that'll give you a coefficient of 4. Now you have x squared times x squared, which will give you x to the fourth. Now the y, you don't see a y term, so the y is just going to hang out. You'll have 4x to the fourth times y. Now let's start with the second term. Start with your coefficients. 2 times negative 3, that'd be negative 6. Then you'll have x squared times x, well that'd be x to the third. Then you have y times y, that'd be y squared. Now, third term, start with your coefficients. You have 2 times 1, that'd be plus 2. Then you have x squared. You don't see an x on the second term of that multiplication, so the x squared just kind of hangs out. But you have y times y squared, which would be y cubed. So the answer you should get for this would be 4x to the fourth y minus 6x cubed y squared plus 2x squared y cubed. All right. Let's see. Let's do one more example here. Well, if s squared t times the quantity of 4t squared minus 10st plus 6s squared. Alright, So we have s squared t times the quantity of 4t squared minus 10st plus 6s squared. What you want to do, take your s squared t. So you're going to take that on the outside of the parentheses, distribute it to each term. So for the first part, you'll take the s squared t times the 4t squared, plus you'll take that s squared t times your negative 10 st, plus you'll take your s squared t times that 6s squared. Alright, now we're just going to do the multiplication. Take your coefficients first. You have 1 times 4. That'll give you a coefficient of 4. Now, s squared t times 4t squared, you only have one s term, so the s squared hangs out. Now you have t times t squared, that'd be t cubed. So you get 4s squared t cubed for the first term. Now the second term, you have the coefficient of 1 and negative 10, which would give you a coefficient of negative 10. Okay. And then you have s squared times s, that'd be s cubed. Then you have t times t, that'd be t squared. And now for the third term, you have a coefficient of 1 and 6, so your coefficient would be 6. Then you have s squared times s squared, that'd be s to the fourth. Then you only have one t term, so that the t would just hang out. So the answer you should get would be 4s squared t cubed minus 10s cubed t squared plus 6s to the fourth t. So really all this is just the distributive property. It's a hyperinflated distributive property. That's honestly all this is. So next lesson we're going to multiply polynomials. It's going to basically be a double distributive property. That's basically what we're going to be doing. So I hope everyone has a good day. Take care.